and you tell me who matters the most in that building. And I know that like Christian McCaffrey's a huge deal for them. Brock Purdy has turned into a really good quarterback. I mean, not turned into it, he just is. And you've got Debo and that sort of thing, but Trent is the straw that stirs the drink. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Hello, Beau.
What's up?
Tell us why.
Why? Well, okay, Chris. I'm doing the Red Bull Championship run in Philly.
Why I? Wait, start. I am doing it?
Green Light team is doing it, and I'm a member of the Green Light crew. I'm a correspondent. You know, you like to send me on random adventures, pickleball, fucking the draft in Detroit, and now I'm headed back to our lovely, beloved city, Philadelphia, because Red Bull is doing an event where they're kind of capitalizing on the people of Philly, the championship run. Basically, they're going to grease up a bunch of poles and let people, Philadelphians, climb them. Because if you remember in 2018, after we won the Super Bowl, it was a big to-do because the city greased up the poles after everyone was climbing them. So Red Bull's making an entire event out of it. I'm going to be representing our lovely podcast, Green Light Pod, and doing some hosting. And, I think they might try to get me to climb one of these grease poles. They asked me for my height and weight. So we're going to see how that one goes. I might fucking like super glue some sandpaper to my hands, get some competitive advantage. So
I feel bad for the pole.
Oh, I'm going to be dancing on that pole like I'm at fucking Risque or whatever.
Yeah, don't out yourself here.
Whatever strip club we used to go to after games in Philly.
I never went to any after games in Philly. I was too old to go to the strip club.
Yeah, me too, Chris. Me too.
But you did take me to that under 18 bar for New Year's that one year. That was cool. Thanks.
Yeah, and then remember we tried to get into that after hours bar and got booted with Connor Barwin.
We came back one year or a year ago, 2 years ago, and we go out with Barwin and we go to this nightclub and we get to the line and the bouncers are like, "Y'all got any girls with you?" And we're like, "No, of course no, we don't have any girls with us." And they're like, "Y'all got to go." I was like, "Hey man, I don't usually do this, but I'm going to throw a bit of a fit here. You know,
we won a Super Bowl in this city.
This is a guy. Barwin's built a bunch of fucking playgrounds. You know, like you're going to not let him in. So anyways, Beau's going to be climbing grease poles. I'm pretty interested to see if people in Philly can climb the grease poles without the ecstasy of a victory.
I think they're still riding that high enough, Chris, where the ecstasy of the victory is still there, you know.
Okay.
They'll have to get as drunk as they were when they climbed the poles the first time.
Yeah,
that's the only way they can do that successfully.
There's waivers for that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a little nervous. I'm not.
Okay. So let's get to it. I want to talk about your big idea that has something to do with this because you've been just screaming through the Zoom right up until we recorded. So go ahead. You now have the floor.
Well, you guys know that Chris can be a little bit of a homebody at times. He's got a lovely home in Charlottesville, Virginia. He's got a lovely home in Montana, which seems like you're at right now. But every now and then, Chris comes up with these crackpot ideas like, hey, I'm going to fucking float down a river in a giant pumpkin. And so, you know, this time around, your boy, the Butter King, I'm trying to come up with some fun content ideas with us. So speaking of Red Bull, part of the reason I'm doing this is because I want to cultivate a relationship with this company because I want to do the Red Bull Flutog, which is November 9th in Tampa, Florida. And basically, for those that don't know, what this is essentially you create these giant winged contraptions with a team and you push them off a high ledge and see how far that they can fly. And I basically told Chris, like, we're doing this. You have to do this. I'm trying to bully him into doing it because it's going to be such a cool event. They haven't done it since before the pandemic. And Chris, we're big boys. Like, we push sleds, you know.
I'm not worried about it. You're acting like you're pulling teeth here. The first moment you mentioned it, I was like, I'm fucking in. But you just
I texted you about it. All Chris said is, I'm in. I'm excited about it, bro. I'm excited.
I'm really excited too. I just take things one day at a time. You know, November 9th, we'll deal with that. But I'm looking up the pictures of all these planes getting pushed off into where are they getting pushed into? The Schuylkill River? Or?
No, this will be in Tampa. I think it'll be into the bay.
Oh, fuck. Sharks?
They haven't released the site yet, dude. They don't. This is it's kind of a well-guarded secret, okay? Because they part of our team, like they don't release the location until kind of right before the event. But we have to get selected. So that's why I'm trying to create some media buzz. I'm talking about.
No, we need to get selected, bro. Red Bull, what's up? I went down a river in a pumpkin almost 40 miles. I went down 100-foot water slide yesterday. It was almost a sheer drop. It's called Geronimo. Had to say Geronimo on the way down. I am a Red Bull athlete, dude. Okay, I'm ready to roll. Beau's ready to roll. So
I'm gonna win this fucking grease pole climbing competition, and then they're half going to put our team in.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm rooting for you. So that's something to look forward to. That's something exciting to look forward to. You know what else we have to look forward to, Beau? Watching training camp.
Yes.
Not participating in training camp. Roll the Harbaugh clip, dude, if you can.
Yeah, let me see this.
Just the way it feels. I mean, it feels like New Year's Day. It feels like being born. It feels like coming out of the womb. It's like you're in there and it's comfortable and it's safe, and now you're out. You're born. The lights are on. It's bright. You got chaos. People looking at you. People talking at you, and just feels good to have it happen.
What a fucking bro. What a beauty. Like, you can't – it's so nice to have, like, a coach in the NFL who's, like, not super polished.
He's shooting from the hip.
Yeah, he's shooting from the hip, man. Like, it's like coming out the womb. Like, you're nice and comfortable in the womb. And all of a sudden –
You know why that's not pre-planned? And, a lot of coaches have, like, pre-planned press conferences because nobody's going to sit there and be like, yeah, let me do childbirth today.
Yeah.
Like that.
There's a lot of things you could equate camp to, Yeah. Like, for me, I'd say, like, D-Day, maybe. Storming
okay, no, not me.
Not childbirth.
They didn't have a bunch of gator lights and tasty snacks on the way out the door to D-Day. It wasn't like when they dropped the fucking the big door open on those amphibious. What were those? What did they call those things?
You got the wrong guy for that, Chris.
Yeah, well, Matt's the history teacher.
Are you talking about the D-Day invasion? I don't know what they call those. Those
that
boats
what you told
that had like people on them.
Yeah,
LCT-6. They're landing craft.
Matt didn't know that. He was just telling his students they had these fucking boats.
Amphibious vehicles.
No, anyways, when they dropped the door on that thing, they weren't like, hydrate up. Like, and
no, they're like, jog to inside, 9 on 7 on the jog. That's what they said. If you're fucking walking, you're losing.
Who are the Germans in the who are the Germans in the training camp? The offensive line?
Mid 2000s Patriots.
Yeah. So, anyways, training camp's hard. I never thought of it like being born, partially because I don't remember being born. I'm not like Terrence Howard, who went on the Joe Rogan podcast and talked in depth about his memories of coming out of the womb to inside run. But honestly, it is refreshing. It's going to be refreshing to have Harbs in the NFL. I just think, I've got to do a segment coming up for my other job where they're like, hey, what's the most exciting thing about this year? And I do think, just on its head, what am I most excited to see? It's Harbaugh, the guy who I watched in the NFC West, take a team that was a real mixed bag, strike shortened season, got them to win 10 games, made Alex Smith look good, made Colin Kaepernick look really good, and really just he's 1 in a million as far as his motivational tactics and the whole thing, because he's just so authentic. Like, he really is. And that might get him in trouble sometimes, but you hear it in his voice. Like, that guy really believes everything he's saying. And you have a choice when you're on a team like that. Get intimidated by the guy or find him amusing and be motivated by him.
If he's saying this shit to the media, you know what I mean? Like, imagine what he was saying to the team and to the entire building, the entire organization in that 3-hour-long first camp meeting. You know what I mean? Like, I would love to be a fly on the wall in that one.
I wonder if he's doing a little Sean McDermott, which happens to be. Yeah. Can you believe we forgot about that? We just kind of moved on. Yeah, exactly.
Never forget. Never forget.
Yeah. We got
rallying
D-Day
cry.
jokes today. We got 9/11 jokes. Fucking what else?
No,
We got?
this is a 9/11 joke. Not joking.
Not joking.
I don't know, man. Camp every year, and I did this yesterday morning because it's the 25th today, and people are reporting on the 24th. Like I set a little alarm, and I put the label on it like training camp, and you wake up and then you go back to bed.
Yeah.
Or in my case, you check with your wife to see if you can go back to bed because I got 3 kids in the house. But it is that time of year where for the longest time, you know, being up here in Montana training like a month before camp, everybody's on vacation having a good time. I'm not, you know, like I am, but I'm not. You got that dark cloud kind of sitting over you. You're thinking about the pressure. And I talked to these guys about it the other day, Beau. I think the thing that makes camp really hard, it's not just the physical, it's the doing all the physical things and doing them well.
Yeah.
It's not just like a, hey, can you get through camp? The scariest thing about camp used to be looking at the draft picks, looking at the undrafted guys. And yes, I was looking at the undrafted guys and everybody like, these guys are going to take my spot.
Yeah.
And, you know, every year you get older, they're trying to replace you. And there's a whole new crop of young guys. And you got to stay healthy. You got to get through it, but you have to play well. The pressure on these guys day in and day out, when you have a play in 9-on-7 or on 3rd down where you bust or they crease you, it could be 9 a.m. You got to live with that play until you take the field the next day. So it's 24 hours of either getting dressed down in the meeting rooms, waiting to get dressed down in the meeting rooms.
Yeah, that's almost the worst part sometimes.
Like, did they see that play? Are they going to pull me up? Like, it could happen at 9 a.m., but it's all that's on your mind until 8.
And everything is being recorded too. I mean, to your credit, Chris, like, and there's just a level of expertise and like it is on the line every single rep. We used to record every single rep of individual drill. And this is one thing that I hadn't seen also until I was in New England, and I wasn't even participating in camp because I was on IR. But Bill will take a rep of individual or a rep of, like, we used to do a modified Oklahoma drill where it was like, you know, it was perfectly acceptable for the NFL and NFLPA's rules, but it was like an O lineman and a D lineman and a running back. And it was structured in such a way, but if you had a horrible, shitty rep, like let's say you miss your hands on a strike and you get bent over, which happens, like this shit happens in camp. Like everyone gets beat. You put it up in front of the entire team in team meeting. You know what I mean? And there is just such, I feel like this has kind of, you know, really like advanced even in our time, since our time in the NFL, Chris. Like there are so many eyes on you. Like people take
you don't even know.
You don't even know. People will post videos of camp clips of one-on-ones, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And it is just, I mean, camp is truly anxiety inducing.
Well, I'm talking about the people upstairs too. Like they have meetings upstairs with people that I've never met that work in football, and you might pass these people in the hall and they might have been dogging you till midnight the night before, but you're in line for a coffee and they're like, how you doing? And you're like, who the fuck is that guy? But that's the way it is. And then, like you said it, it's not just the people in the building, but it's also the people out of the building who oftentimes don't have context within a drill, or, you know, they're looking at one-on-one pass rush with no pads and they're making these determinations off that type of thing. And so I just said this, like the rules of camp, you know, obviously show up in great shape, show up ready to compete, show up, you know, ready to stay healthy as best you can. But also don't look up, like don't count the days. We had my college coach, Al Groh, used to say, don't look for the light at the end of the tunnel. It's a train. And I never could really figure that one out. But as camp went on, it was apparent to me that he was right, because back in the day, training camp was 6 weeks long in college. You'd stay at the Cavalier Inn in Charlottesville, which is an outdoor hallway hotel, you know, run-of-the-mill kind of motel for 6 weeks. And for college guys, it's no problem. But it is a marathon, and you're away from your families. As you get in the league, that becomes more noticeable when you got kids and a wife and that sort of thing, and they got to come visit you once a week or that sort of thing. Nowadays, with the new camp structure, like they have a day off every couple days. There's a lot more time. Beau, you're a little young. You didn't do the old CBA training camps where we had to walk uphill in the snow, but like,
hey, I don't give a fuck. Camp is hard as fuck, no matter what era it's in. It's a great equalizer, man.
And that's my point. It's not all about physical. You know, like my dad and them, they used to go a couple months, 2-a-days, because they weren't getting in shape in the off season. They'd use camp to get into shape. Now we've swung to a place on the pendulum where it's like,
well, that's so foreign to me, Chris, because I feel like camp was always the peak of my physical well-being. You know what I mean? The first week of camp is
the best you're going to feel.
Exactly. It's the best you're going to feel all season. And then every year it just gets shittier and shittier, you know?
What are your favorite parts of camp? I'll go one, you go one. Here's one I really like, the conditioning test, because usually I was going to smoke the conditioning test. I could run, like I had really good wind, but I loved watching, especially the big guys that clearly weren't going to make it, or like the big guy group. There's always one guy that dives. He lays out completely to try to make his time. And less than 50% of the time, this move works. But it's so funny to me because I think the dive is fueled by some desire to show the coach that you care. Yeah. When really the best way to show the coach that you care would have been to be in shape.
No kidding.
That's one of my favorite early moments in camp, watching the conditioning test.
I always liked – then this is maybe a little bit dark, but I always like seeing some of the rookies roll in with, you know, maybe you got a 5th-round pick who's driving a Charger, and you're just like, buddy, like, take a look at the roster.
Yeah, one of my favorite things is actually cutting the rookie's hair. So people at home, there's like a tradition, and it's kind of like it's a pseudo tradition because a forced haircut is kind of like hazing, right? And you know, for white guys, no big deal. We'll fuck our hair up. But the bros, they've been working hard at that shit. Like, you know, they got cool hair and like it takes a while and there's things that we don't understand about tending to that said hair. And so these rookies will roll up. And by the way, by the time you're in your 30s, most of them could probably beat you up. You know, like you're not what you were when you were 23. You're a little bit older. These guys are physically impressive. So they roll in, and the first thing I'm thinking about is which one's going to fight one of the vets over a haircut. Yeah. Like, that's honestly one of my first thoughts. Because back in the day, you could haze a lot more. We had, like, rookie shows and the whole thing, and the rookie show was amazing. I can remember in Macon, Wisconsin, me and David Vobora leading up, heading up the rookie show. We called it the Rammies. It was like the Grammys. And we gave out awards. Like, we gave one guy the Captain Save-A-Ho Award. Because he married some rapper's ex-girlfriend or something. Like, we really, when they're like, hey, motherfucker, this rookie show better be good, we're like, oh, it's going to be good. Are you going to be able to stay in your seats? Yeah. You know, like, we fried Richie Incognito. We had a standing ovation, the whole thing. But, you know, you get up and sing, you do. Some of that stuff's going by the wayside. The haircuts are still prevalent. And my favorite part was just watching the friction that was created every time they're like, oh, it's time to go in the bathroom, guys. And I used to just stand outside the bathroom because I'm not cutting Josh Sweat's hair. He's worked a long time on that, and the guy's much bigger than me. Like,
along those same lines, Chris, we drafted in 2018, I was with the Bucks. We drafted Vita Vea. All right. The biggest motherfucker you've ever seen in your life. And he had the long hair at the time. We just interviewed him last week on Greenlight Pod. Check it out. But it's like, he had this fucking long Polynesian hair, beautiful, biggest dude ever. He's like, yeah, you guys aren't cutting my hair. You're not cutting my hair. I'm like, yeah, okay, you're right. So we ended up just shaving both of his eyebrows off. It's like, careful what you wish for, buddy.
You'd have been like me on that. There's some guys that are like, nah, fuck that. We're cutting these guys' hair. I'm like, well, you're going to need to get a crew to hold this guy down.
It kind of depends on the rookie too, though, Chris, because you know, like some guys – you just need to fucking cut their hair, whether or not they're going to give you friction. Like, you need to kind of let them know, like, hey, this is how things are going to be. Like, you better fit into this mold here.
Yeah, you got to you got to talk to the scouts. Like, do these guys have any character concerns, or was this guy in a lot of fights? You know, at his time at Texas Tech, like, maybe I shouldn't cut this guy's hair.
Another worst was like some rookies were just a little too eager for the haircuts. Like, some undrafted free agents are just offering themselves up. You're like, yo, you're taking the fucking fun out of it, man.
Yeah,
like,
you got to make it a little bit of a like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I think what they think is if they do that easy, and there's some credence to this, if you're just a team player during camp, they're not going to hit you so hard during the rookie dinner and that sort of thing later.
Right.
My favorite part about camp, one of my favorite parts about camp is when the coach is like, and these coaches always act like they're the first to ever do it and they deserve like a parade for doing it. But at the end of a practice, they're like, all right, guys, call it up. Get the jugs machine out. Give me the 5 fattest fucking guys on the team down there, and they're going to try to catch the ball. You know, like they do the motorized punt, and they put the hang time on high, and these big fat BMI having motherfuckers stand down there, and they try to track the ball, and usually one will get hit in the face or something, and another guy will fall down because it's hard to catch punts in the NFL, let alone from one of those machines. But then inevitably, the coach will be like, if one of these guys catches the ball, we don't have practice later today, and we're going to the movies. Now, I don't want to go to see Invictus as a team in 2010, which was not a great movie with Matt Damon and the Springboks. But Steve Spagnuolo took us to see Invictus, and I'll tell you what, it was a hell of a lot better than practice number 2. And my back was killing me in that movie. It was way too long. I'm sitting next to Cliff Ryan and 2 other big guys, but Anywhere was better than Earth City on the field. And so by punt catcher like number 4, if nobody's caught it, the coach basically makes a decision that, like, I don't care how many it takes, we're going to give these guys a chance because this is what's going to happen today. We're going to get the afternoon off. That is a great moment in camp because it signals the light at the end of the tunnel coming. You know, my college coach said, don't look for the light. It's a train. In this case, this means camp's getting close. And I love, like, even if it was the last thing I wanted to do, going to the movies as a team, like something like that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. This is like my favorite shit about camp is always stuff that's like kind of a little bit fucked up. And one of mine is like,
yeah, because you're a hater. You're like, oh, I love it when the young D tackle gets carted off.
Yes, another one bites the dust. I'm safe. But no, my favorite thing, and I was 7th round pick, Chris. I didn't have a silver spoon stuck up my ass like some of us.
It would fit.
Damn it up there.
People are saying.
So what I'm saying is, I always had to play in the 4th preseason game, and like usually that was a time for me where you only have a certain amount of guys that are playing, right? So you can get a lot of reps. I always kind of liked it because I always played well. At the same time, it was a grind, but it was an opportunity for me to be like, okay, I'm playing. The 4th preseason game is always a fucking bloodbath. And I love watching it. I love watching, the guys who are like on the roster bubble pre-game. They're just like in their lockers, like they know that they got to fucking strap it on because they're going to be playing 75 snaps every single special team. And then those games are always just a bloodbath. It's always kind of bad ball. Everyone's busted up at the end of camp. Everyone is trying as hard as they possibly can. There's fucking bodies on the ground. The
scheme is whittled down.
The scheme it's literally just like 3 defenses, 5 offensive runs, and like 3 different pass concepts. So like,
it looks like Matt Canada's offense.
Exactly. Like the coaches don't give a fuck. The coaches are checked out. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's 40 guys that are playing every single snap. And so that was always kind of a fun moment for me to just be like, what the fuck is going to happen in this game? Some dude always randomly balls out, has like an unbelievable stat line, and then gets
Stephen Means. Well, Stephen Means. So Stephen Means was like such a legend. People that follow the Eagles probably remember Stephen Means. He's a big jack DN. He wasn't like a burner, so he had some physical limitations, but he had an incredible power rush.
Yeah,
and he was a hard worker to the point where he was
hard as fuck every single day.
He was like the Grim Reaper to the O lineman. Like that, the show team was going to get fucked up. They were going to get yelled at by Stout because of Means, and the defensive coaches loved him. Everybody loves Stephen. He was such a legend. When he got cut, Jim Schwartz cried. We had like a big meeting out on the field. It's like I had to let Stephen Means go, and we're like, I'm super bummed too, but he's getting some playing time down in Atlanta now. So I'm not talking about now, but that year later. But the point is, like, Stephen Means, I'll never forget this preseason game 4. Everything you just said, just total shit show. Last day of school vibes. you got all the vets on the sideline with their food rolled up in their socks. Like, it's nothing more fun than being on the sideline watching when like usually I'm supposed to be taking 40 snaps and my life's on the line. Not my life, but my career. It's really fun to sit there and watch the guys and to just be a spectator in an NFL game. We don't get that opportunity a lot. That fourth preseason game is that opportunity. And I can remember watching Stephen Means at the end of that game, folk hero, 2 sacks to close out the game. It was a night game, I think, against I don't remember, the Jets.
Always the Jets, yeah.
It was the Jets. And this was a closely contested game, came down to the wire. They would have taken a couple shots to try to tie or win the game, which nobody cares. The last thing you want to do is go to overtime. So, like, I think overtime's on the line. The last thing you want to do at 11:30 at night in the fourth preseason game, everybody in the building, like, we need to go for 2 or vice versa. The game's on the line, so is 2 more hours, okay? Stephen Means, hero status, 1 sack, 2 sacks as the time expires. And he used to do this like Jeremiah Trotter, like Axemen thing. And I remember he got that last sack and he does the Axemen and they set the fireworks off as he does the Axemen. And the fireworks are coordinated with this guy's celebration and everybody's going nuts. We get to go home. Camp's over, basically. And Stephen Means is a folk hero. Those games, like you said, Beau, are incredible. They're also great because, and all the preseason games are good for this, somebody's going to get in trouble. One of the vets is going to get in trouble for being out of the locker room too late after half. I can remember, and I'm sure you do, I think it was 2000. Was when you were there, Beau?
Dude, I think you might be talking about me. I don't know what you're getting into, but this is a story I think I've told here before because I always had to play in the fourth preseason game. In 2017, I had torn my pec, so I missed a lot of camp, but I kind of played in the tail end of it. I remember Jim Schwartz, who, we love playing in that scheme and love him as a guy, kind of said to me, like, hey, if you're going to be playing, like, you're going to be on the team, blah, 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 but you need to play in this preseason game just to kind of get your feet wet, like, feel that contact that you've had on that injured pec, before the season starts. So, like, we're going to get you a couple series, like, whatever. I think I got 10 snaps, and it was my first time in my career that I didn't play significant time in the fourth preseason game. And so I'm in the locker room at halftime, like, fucking jerseys rolled up, like, shit's, my fucking cleats are untucked, like,
don't have. You want to get all that shit off so you can really enjoy the game.
Yeah, and I'm like, what the fuck do I do? Like, I don't have to play in the second half. And Kelsey's like, let me show you what to do. So me and Kelsey and Lane are just ripping hot dogs in the media room, in the locker room. Okay, and I'm like, it's fucking awesome. Like, I feel like I'm part of the cool kids club, Yeah. I'm eating hot dogs with fucking Kelsey and Lane, and I'm loving it. All of a sudden, I'm like, I'm kind of caught up in the moment, and then I like kind of listen. I'm like, oh, it's quiet. It's too
There's
quiet.
nobody in here.
Go look out in the locker room. Everyone's gone. I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, throw on all my shit really quick, put my helmet on, start sprinting out of the tunnel. And this is at MetLife because we're playing the Jets. We get down to the tunnel, and the kickoff team is fucking rolling down the field. And I'm like, it's me and Kelsey and Lane. I'm like, what the fuck?
Y'all cut across the end zone, dude.
We cut across the end zone the back. And I was like doing one of those like walks.
With the ball in the air.
I didn't want to sprint because I didn't want to be – I was trying to be like sneaky about it, but it was like so obvious. And Doug is just hands on hips staring at us, bro. Sticks like Lane and Kels can get away with this shit, but like your boy is the first fourth preseason game I'd ever not played in the second half. So I like walk over there and I'm like trying to be incognito. All of a sudden Dom comes over to me on the sideline after I finally get there. He's like, Doug is pissed. Doug is going to fine you. Conduct detrimental. It's like $17,000. That'd have been my entire first
$17,000 over a hot dog.
Like, Doug, like, literally had a hot dog in my mouth strolling across the end zone. Like, I'm like sinking, feeling like I am fucked. Like, I'm fucked. I'm going to get hit with the conduct detrimental. Dom is just laughing at me. You know what I mean? He's like, Big Dom is just like, yeah, Doug is pissed. Doug is going to get your ass with a fine. Like, you fucking.
He was mad.
He was mad. So then I'm like, after the game, go up to Doug. I'm like, I'm really sorry. Like, I fucked that up. Like, I am so sorry. He's like, just come see me. Come see me tomorrow. Fucking set my alarm. I'm like, I swear to God, I'm the first guy in the building. Go up to Doug's office. I'm ready to get my fucking ass chewed out, ready, like, thinking I might be getting cut, like, blah, blah, blah. Doug's just like, oh no, you're good. You're good. Like he's like, just don't do that again. I'm like, I will never do that again. I promise.
Schwartz was mad. Dudes were mad.
That was so bad.
You gotta be careful. You can't be laid out of the. Get your Uncrustables, put them in your fucking sock, unbutton your shit before halftime so that it comes off quick when you get in there, and get the fuck back out. Because I will never forget watching you guys waltz across the end zone with the ball in the air.
Bro, the pit in my stomach as I watched that ball getting kicked. And I'm just like, and it was a touchback too. So like everyone's eyes just went right to us. Fuck.
Hey, that first night when they give you steak and lobster when you get there to like fatten you up like a Wagyu steak. You know, like you're like a veal. Like they want you as tender and beefy as possible, and they want you happy. So they give you like a great meal the first night, and then it's all downhill from there. But I will say this: I love hotel life. So you tell me I got to go stay at the Holiday Inn for 3 weeks. I'm good, dude. Like so that to me is a fun part. The only part that sucks about the hotel is, you got to get sleep. A lot of these practices are in the morning. You got to be back at the facility at 7, that sort of thing. You need sleep. But they check your rooms at like 11:30 at night. Like that's curfew. So if you go to bed at like 10:15 to try to get a full 8 hours, you're going to get woken up at 11 o'clock to somebody slamming your door open. It's like, thanks a lot, coach. So I think the hotel's great. You got Wi-Fi. Strong Wi-Fi, good for porn if you're into that. You have privacy if you're older and you don't have a roommate, which having a roommate's the dumbest thing in the world. I mean, we're $1 million athletes. Like we can't get our own rooms. I'm not saying we deserve like the Taj Mahal, but
do coaches have this? Are they on like their own floor? They aren't on your guys' floor, right? It's like players and
they're not even in the hotel.
Coaches aren't even.
They're not.
Rules for thee, but not for me. You know what I'm saying? And I know for a fact some of these coaches are out getting it in at night. Because we've had coaches before that come in bragging about things they're doing, and you're like, really?
I know exactly who you're talking about, Chris.
So, but anyways, training camp, it is upon us. We don't have to do it. I do miss inside run. I swear to God, I miss it. I miss the first drill of the day, going out there, strapping up. We used to take pride. I can't speak for Beau. I'm sure he did, but like I took pride in like testing myself, and like, hey, all this work I put in all year, I want to show what I've been doing, right? Like that first week, you want them to cut, because they'll go upstairs and say, this guy had a good off season. This guy slacked. So I took pride in that. I took pride in the bruises on your forehead, the bruises all over your arms, the little stuff, the bridge of your nose. That stuff was a sick kind of point of pride, and I do miss that competitive edge. I'm sitting here in August almost of 2000 and what year is it? 24, and I'm 6 years removed from being tested that way, and it is something I miss. But let's get into it. I mean, Jonathan Owens got the pass to skip all this.
That's a smart man right there. It's his wife is competing in the Olympics, one of America's finest athletes, and he got the perfect, because like we would give guys shit when they'd miss camp because they're, a lot of guys would like, they'd have pregnant wives who are giving birth during camp, and you give them shit like, hey, great timing, man. That's a real vet move.
Yeah, hey, real smart.
Yeah, the real smart move is to date or to be married to an Olympic athlete so you can fuck off to Paris for a couple days during fall camp.
A couple days. I don't know how long. I think this guy's gonna be gone for a while.
What a fucking treat for him, man. He's just a supportive husband. You know what I mean, Chris? He just wants to support his girl out there as she competes with some of the finest athletes in the world. Meanwhile, his ass isn't throwing up 10 times on the sideline. You know what I mean?
No, like Becton puking in Philly. I actually texted Lane to be like, was it really 10 times? He hasn't texted me back yet. I think he's out there doing everything we were just talking about. But the Becton puking thing reminds me of my favorite puking story, which is Beau puking on Kilimanjaro.
Oh, my God. I should have fucking seen this one coming. Hey, I'm a barfer, all right? I'm not going to lie to you. I've thrown up many times, too. When I signed down in Tampa and I had my first camp in Tampa, I threw up just from pure heat because I'm like that guy, that meathead white D tackle. I'm ripping supplements before practice. I'm taking caffeine pills.
Yeah, you're supped up.
I'm fucking supped up, baby. And I get out there and it's 90 degrees with 95% humidity, and I'm throwing up on my way, jogging on my way over to inside run. So I don't judge a guy for throwing up 10 times at practice. Just don't fucking miss any reps. And it sounds like he didn't.
I've seen guys puking just down their bodies,
Dude,
like just standing there helpless with the look in their eye. Like I like, you know how when a guy gets a full body cramp on a plane, there's just nothing they can do about it, and everybody's like, "Man, I've seen guys puking for 15 seconds straight just down their jerseys."
One of the funniest things I've ever seen, the third preseason game. You know how it is, the third preseason game is like a dress rehearsal for a game for the starters. We played in Pittsburgh, and I don't know, like I was in for the entire series. Steelers had a 16-play drive, and it was hot. It was, third preseason game is always that point in camp where everyone's pretty fucked up. You don't have time. Like, you haven't had that time.
But that's why you need preseason.
Right, exactly. But, dude, 16-play drive. The Steelers are in the red zone. Pouncey getting ready to snap the ball. He's calling out the mic point. Throws up on the ball. On the ball. Gross. Snaps it to Roethlisberger, who throws an incomplete pass because the ball was all slimy from his fucking throw up. And I'm sitting there as a nose guard. I'm right over the ball. I'm like, bro, this guy cannot be fucking serious right now. Throws up on the ball, snaps it. It's so fucking funny, dude. There's a lot of gross shit that happens on the field. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, they're like, get hands on the center. You're like, I think I'm going to shoot the gap.
Yeah, I'm quick swimming this one.
I'm quick swimming. Now we're talking about people. We're talking about the Jonathan Owens thing. Him skipping training camp. People skipping training camp in more regular ways. Trent Williams is holding out, and I think we were talking about this coming into this deal because I think what's interesting about this whole thing is you got Brandon Ayuk, who is a good player, and he's demanding a certain thing, and San Francisco and him are a certain distance apart. I'm not really sure what's going to happen with that deal, but everybody's been paying attention to Ayuk, and Trent Williams quietly, like at the start of camp, is like, well, I'm the big fish, and I'll be going first, and I'll be sitting at least at the beginning of camp because I want a new deal, and I can't disagree with Trent Williams.
No, it's just impressive to me that he's doing it this late in his career too, and he's not wrong. You know what I mean?
He's not wrong.
He's one of the best alignment that there is, and he knows that, obviously, which is why he's sitting out. But, I mean, you can't really fault a guy for trying to get paid like that, especially when he's a player of that caliber. You know what I mean?
You can't. And I think when it comes to leverage, look at the tape with him off the field last year.
Yeah.
And you tell me who matters the most in that building. And I know that, like, Christian McCaffrey's a huge deal for them. Brock Purdy has turned into a really good quarterback. I mean, not turned into it. He just is. And you've got Debo and that sort of thing. But Trent is the straw that stirs the drink. And I think when you look at the Niners, they have gotten kind of lucky at times. I think they've done things the right way. To be good, you got to be good and lucky, right? I mean, they have drafted and brought up blue chip players at a clip, which is, quite frankly, I didn't expect it with John Lynch. I mean, anytime you got a former player GM, like the results are mixed, and he's been one of the more successful ones. But they built a program there, and they built it off picking the right guys. But they've also gotten lucky too with the Trey Lance pick. Like, that would sink a lot of organizations. Yeah. But they've got a lot of blue chip guys, and most importantly, they find Brock Purdy in the Tom Brady section of the draft. Yeah. Which you want to give credit to them for doing that. But I always say, if you knew Brock Purdy or Tom Brady was going to be Brock Purdy or Tom Brady, and I'm not comparing the two, but you know what I'm saying, you would have probably picked him earlier. So there is some luck involved in being the Niners. I think they got lucky with the quarterback thing. I think with the Christian McCaffrey thing, it's them knowing they're the only team that can make a move like that and really profit off it. I mean, because I always say, like, the running back is the last thing in today's NFL. It's a luxury that you invest in if you have everything else. So they have been able to do this thing in a non-standard way.
But I don't think you can call Christian McCaffrey a running back in the modern sense. Like, the way he's used, he's such a Swiss Army knife for them. And obviously he's a running back. that is his fucking position, but he's used as a fucking slot wide
But
receiver.
but to my point, I don't know that other teams would have been able to make that move and survive, giving up capital, investing in a running back. And also what they've been a little bit lucky on is like he stayed healthy.
Yeah.
And they haven't like protected him. In fact, one of the things that Shanahan's talked about going in this camp is we have to do a better job of protecting Christian from Christian. Well, that just starts with y'all. Like you got to make that decision. So I think the point I'm making is they're at an inflection point here. And it's a sneaky inflection point where I think they're going to be good no matter what. But to get back where they've been the majority of the years, they have to stick the landing on the succession in which you pay your players. And, I think the Purdy thing's going to happen next offseason, right? I think the guy you got to take care of right now is Trent Williams. Because if you don't have those guys under contract with Brock Purdy, he's an unknown commodity with an average team around him, as are a lot of quarterbacks. So I'm not trying to pick on Brock Purdy, but if Christian McCaffrey starts getting dinged over the next year and a half of his career, if Trent isn't under contract, you forget the Ayuk thing. If Pearsall, who to me, investing a one in a wide receiver this year says, hey, we want to work around this Ayuk thing and keep the options open. Well, he started camp hurt. Like Pearsall's got to be a player. So there's a couple things that have to happen for them to keep doing business as usual. And I think item one is making sure that Trent Williams is happy and that he is a 49er for as long as you can have him. The Purdy thing will take care of itself. And at some point with these quarterback deals, his deal will look like a bargain if you keep the right pieces around him. I don't care how eye-popping the numbers are right now. Think 3-4 years down the line. So I'm not balking at paying Purdy. You got to pay a guy who's shown you what he's shown. I think he's like kind of he's got a little of the Tua thing where people doubt him because of what's around him. But I think the difference between him and Tua is the ability to make plays off platform, to extend plays. And that's why I think he's not just a game manager. But I will say this, like overall, I think 49ers are at kind of like an inflection point. And they do have some complicating factors. One of them being like, I want to know how good this Pearsall guy is. And I want to know sooner than later. Right. And so I'll be keeping my eyes on Niners camp for sure in some of these contract situations.
Hey, who's the happiest that Trent Williams is holding out for camp?
Who? Nick Bosa?
Bosa.
Yeah. Or anybody rushing over him. Like,
seriously.
I don't even know about Nick Bosa, but like if you're going into camp and you're a defensive end and you're getting evaluated, like say you're with the twos and you got to play Trent Williams every day, like that kind of sucks. And you might at the end of camp be like, I didn't really get a lot of chances to work on my stuff because this guy's so good. It's kind of nice to rush against the third tackle or whatever because you get to show your stuff. Like I can remember being a college player playing in 3-4 and DeBrickashaw Ferguson was the tackle. And that guy's got go-go gadget arms and I'm lined up in a 4-eye and they're like, you got to figure it out, win, get on his edge, bull him, like what. And it wasn't happening. And I just remember looking up 3 weeks into camp and saying, my confidence is kind of shot. And it's great working against a Lane Johnson, but it's also nice to get some work against the second tackle because then I get to work my stuff and the coaches get to see that I have some stuff. If you're playing a blue chip guy the whole camp, it does make you better, but it can also limit you. So that's a great point.
Chris, do you think that your new colleague, Bill Belichick, misses reporting to camp? Or does he feel like you guys?
That's so funny. I just saw a report the other day that Bill turned down the DC job with San Francisco, which would have been a lot of fun to watch. But it also speaks to probably where he is. Like, I think he wants to be a head coach at some point in his career. Again, I think he will be. I haven't talked to him about this. Like me and coach have kept in touch like over text over the last couple of years. And I'm not acting like I'm his best friend, but he's coached a lot of guys. And like for him to return text messages, I think it speaks a lot to who he is. I mean, he's always texted me back and he texted me, in fact, one time unprompted as a result of something we said on the pod, which was like, oh, fuck, Bill might be listening or somebody's telling me. I had to check to make sure we've been positive, but I was complimenting the fact that Bill sits in coach and allows the players to sit in first class and travel, which is a pet peeve of mine when coaches don't do that. You got the fucking quality control guy with his legs dangling up there like a little 3-year-old in his iPad.
Do you think at the Inside the NFL, when you guys record, that he's going to do that to you players? He's going to give you guys the comfy chairs? You, Ryan.
Oh, that'd be nice. That'd be nice.
Would be nice. It'd be good of him.
But that's who he's shown to be so far. Like, we've had a couple production meetings and that sort of thing. And like the first Zoom when Bill popped on, I was blown away by how relaxed he is. And I think you're going to see a side of him that's totally different that the players have seen, like players that have played under him have seen. Like, he'll sprinkle in the fun Bill. And Fun Bill is pretty fun, dude. Like, he's funny.
He's actually pretty funny, Chris. That was one of the biggest things that surprised me, because I played for the Patriots. Like I said earlier, I didn't actually play because I was injured, not like you. But he's like, there's some things I was expecting him to be a hard ass about certain things. He's very laid back about some things that I've had other head coaches be really big sticklers on, like
dress code
at practice.
No big deal. Just be in your fucking gap, man. I don't need you tucking your shirt in.
And then other small things like I remember being dumbfounded because one time there was a guy who was kind of late for a meeting, and he was completely understanding of the issue at the time, and I remember just being completely dumbfounded about that. So like,
he's a fair guy. He's a fair guy, and he can be fun. And I think like being on Inside the NFL with him, number one, I'm like, hey, how lucky am I? You know, like, I'm sitting here watching as one of his former players. I'm watching him leave the Patriots, wondering what he's going to do. We're theorizing, we're giving our take, and we're in the take. I'm in the take. The take is that he should go do Inside the NFL with Ryan Clark, Ocho Cinco, and Chris Long, and it ended up happening. Like, I could not believe it. And I cannot tell you, and I've known this for a couple months, the amount of people that I've wanted to tell, and some people that I've actually told, I've been like, just guess. Guess who's filling this chair? And no one guesses Bill. And then when I tell them, they're like, holy shit. And I got to tell you, when I was on that Zoom call the first time with him, and I played for him, and I've won Super Bowls, and we've had great careers and fun careers, but to sit at a desk with Bill, his first TV job, especially considering his seeming unwillingness to like get in front of a camera and play this game, I think it's just crazy. I said to my mom, I was like, I just got off a production call with Bill Belichick. I feel like in 30 years, no matter what happens this season, if he's with us for a couple of years, if we do this for a long time, if he's back coaching, I can tell my kids, hey, this story, you know, like, I opened the Zoom for our Inside the NFL gig, and I'm staring at the GOAT, and I'm hearing him analyze football on a week-to-week basis. Like, we're going to tape on Wednesdays. I'm going to bother Coach. Like, on Tuesdays when I get up there, I'm going to be like, Coach, every Tuesday night I want to watch film.
Chris,
you know,
I'm sure
I haven't worked up the courage to ask him that, but I think I'm going to ask him that.
Yeah. One of the things that I appreciate so much about my time in New England is I was a fly on the wall a little bit there because I was on IR, but his ability to take football, which is, you know, very complicated concepts, different, you know, scheme breakdowns and stuff, and he just puts it so simply. It's like a fucking college professor who is such an expert in their craft explaining some shit to like a first-year college student. Like, that's how it felt at times. Just the ability to break something down into such simple, very understandable terms. I think that's actually going to translate so well to a media job like that. I'm interested to see if that's kind of how it unfolds.
It's good. That's exactly what it's going to be, because he was talking in like 101 terms, and he also was like real cool. He was like, I want to learn from you guys. You guys are the players, like always. Like, I like learning from the players, and that's kind of the way he is. Like, I can remember being in New England and him pulling me aside to ask me questions about game planning for the Rams. I'm like, Coach, I think you got this.
And he's so detail oriented though. Like, he's such a in New England. Like, he was the one running the show, obviously, and such a. You know, like, I hesitate to use the term like a micromanager, but he just is aware of every single thing that was happening in that building, and I'm interested to see if that's what happens in the media side.
But that's what you just said, micromanager. It would fit if he would be annoying about it, but he's not. He really does let coaches coach. He lets players play. But when he comes in, and I used to walk around the field and stop in at different individual periods, he was coaching better than the damn position coaches. You know, all the way down the line, I think any of them would tell you that, except for maybe Scar. he had something to tell you that you weren't going to hear from your individual coach, which I think is really cool. And then I'll just say this lastly, when he got on the call, the personality, the kind of, first off, like, I don't think he knows how to mute his Zoom or like his
well, his dog did that last time. His dog was taking care of the Zoom.
Maybe he's got like someone young and tech savvy in his corner.
He was like riding in the car and like he was like participating in the meeting and doing everything because people Zoom in from everywhere now in these meetings, and like there was a point where I don't think he had his phone off, and like you could see everybody in the car, and like I don't think he's tech savvy yet on the media side, but I cannot wait to see his personality come out, because the first meeting, he's busting Ryan Clark's balls about his suits. He's like, RC, for Halloween, I think you should dress in my hoodie and I should wear a fucking 3-piece suit with all the colors. I was like, oh, this is going to be great, because somebody's going to be busting RC's balls besides me. And I just think it's going to be really cool. It allows me to do my job. When I get up there to talk, I don't want to come across like I got all the answers, and I don't. And I think it's really cool and disarming to have somebody that I can be like, hey, coach, what do you think? Yeah. And defer, because I will always defer to him. I'm going to have my opinions and I'll be delivering the takes, but it's nice when you can look. If you think about football, if anybody had a football question, who's the first person they're asking?
Exactly.
I get to ask that person questions every week. And so I think it's awesome. Off camera, on camera. I cannot wait. Just got off a call this morning. We're getting ready to do a rehearsal. I cannot wait. It's going to be awesome. So, and I get to work in New Jersey again, right there next to Philly at the NFL Films, the house that Steve Sable built. And so I'm super psyched to do it again. And I even got some nice suits this year, because last year my dress code was a topic of conversation in the building. And also at home, like my dad would text me like, really good job, Chris. You want my suit guy's information? And
Chris is gunning for that drip king of the week, baby.
Well, I would say to my dad and anybody else, like, hey, if they want me back another fucking year, then I'll buy some suits. But I'm not going to buy a bunch of suits and then get let go this offseason. So you want well-dressed Chris, you extend him.
Do you think you're going to come back with any different hairstyles? Because there were a couple players that showed up to training camp with completely new.
So I was thinking about this before Joe Burrow, because I wouldn't wear the Joe Burrow thing I did in high school once. Me and Kingston, actually. Kingston was part of a group. Me and myself and Macon, we dyed our hair. And we had the Slim Shady for a couple weeks or a month or two.
Your mom actually dyed our hair.
Yeah, she did. And I'm not into the Bradley Noel thing as much, but when Jason Kelsey dyed his hair, it kind of looked cool to me. And I'm kind of wondering if I could pull it off and if it makes your hair look thinner than it is.
Hey, Ertz was rocking that shit too for a little bit.
Ertz was rocking it too a little bit. Kind of remind me of the Ryan Gosling. Gosling had that thing going for a little bit. But I'll just say this about Joe Burrow. The minute I saw this, and you know how I feel about big changes in hair or facial hair or any of that, it means that there's something going on with that individual. There's some storm under the surface that we're not seeing, and it manifests in a Slim Shady haircut. I think the NFL should be very afraid, because Joe Burrow is going through something.
I think all the girls on Raya should be very afraid, Chris. Because I think he's recently single. Is what my intuition's telling me. Big change in hair.
What's Raya?
Oh, don't worry about it.
Okay, is that something you use?
Not at the moment, but I have historically.
You want to tell us about your girlfriend, since you say not at the moment?
Fuck out of here. It's a little bit of a dating app, and I'm hearing on the buzz on the street is that Joey B might be recently single. What makes talk about shit I don't know about, but I think that's one reason to get a fresh new haircut. Create some.
What makes it different than like Bumble?
It's for like people with blue check marks.
Oh, it's for famous people?
Yeah.
Oh, you're fucking kidding me, dude. Yeah. Yo, it is.
Allegedly, that's what I'm hearing.
It is so easy to get ass now for people. I mean, it's just like Dudes
for
in the,
yourself, Chris.
well, I'm married. But I think about these guys and like imagine being a Packer in the 60s. Like you actually had to go out to the bar and work the mouthpiece, and that's what those guys were doing back in the day. And now you've got an app where you can just Rihanna's on,
Yeah.
What the fuck? Joe Burrow, man. He might set the league on fire this year. I don't know so much about the Bengals roster construction. I think there's a couple holes, but I think Joe Burrow is ready to set the league on fire because I've seen that haircut. The other thing I saw was the Saquon stuff and the Hard Knocks thing with the Giants.
Can I talk about that for a second? Because I got a bone to pick. One of my biggest, technological pet peeves. You call somebody up and you start this has happened with me and you before. I'll call you up, start dropping a bunch of F-bombs, blah, blah, blah. And you'd be like, Beau, I'm in the car. You're on speakerphone and the boys are in the back. Like, stop fucking swearing so much. The first thing that you should do if you're ever like on speakerphone is like, hey, what's up, Chris? You're on speaker right now. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Imagine being fucking Saquon Barkley and having, an emotional conversation with the GM of your football team that you've played for, you've fucking bled for, you've gone through injuries, you've been a loyal and humble servant of the New York Giants, and all of a sudden you are getting these conversations that you think are private are getting fucking blasted out left, right, and center. I think that would be a very frustrating thing as a player to experience.
Isn't that lawsuit territory?
I mean, I don't know, man, but it seems to me like a complete and total breach of trust. Like you're having very important, financial contract discussions that are being put out.
And one side knows that it's being recorded, and one side doesn't know.
Yeah,
there's different state laws by state. Yeah. Some require 2-party consent, some require 1.
Is New York a one-party consent state?
I think they were probably in New Jersey, so that's a 1-party state. I'm not sure about New York.
What states are not a 2-party consent state? California, Delaware, Florida, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, Montana, Nevada, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, and Washington. So I kind of wonder if it comes down we're just spitballing here, but I wonder if it comes down to where Saquon picked up the phone or where Shane – I wonder if Shane drove to Delaware to make the call. And also what was really apparent to me about those calls with Saquon is Joe Shane and him have no relationship. Yeah. And Joe Shane, and I'm not claiming to know the guy, but I could tell that he's not a guy who knows how to talk to players. Yeah. It was just an awkward call. And, obviously there's a lot of baggage between both sides there, but it just, for everything that Saquon's done there, if you're a New York fan and you're mad at Saquon, they really could have paid him. Yeah. This is what happens in today's NFL. If you're not willing to pay a guy, somebody in division might. And some of those you don't go play for a division rival sort of things, that's out the window. And now you got to see him twice a year. And I'm not for nepotism in the front office, in coaching, in really anywhere. We've talked about this. It just came up with the LeBron thing, and we talk about it a lot with NFL coaches. Joe Shane's kid, though, I think he might be okay.
He wants to win now.
He wants to win now, dude. I think Giants fans, you want to talk about a coup. Maybe there should be a coup in New York, because I saw Joe Shane's kid Dad, you only get this job once. And he's right. He knows that if he gets fired here, there's not going to be another shot, right? And so I just thought that kid and his honesty was really refreshing. I was actually entertained by that. But
I think they got to keep family out of the draft, the war room, Chris. I was watching a video about David Tepper's wife.
Yeah. You were watching a video of David Tepper's wife?
Yeah, it was a great video. I'll send you the link later. But she was consulting in the Panthers draft room too, and it's let the fucking experts work, man.
Whoa. Let the experts work? Not in this situation.
Let the GM and the fucking front office work. How about that?
How about the wife and the husband in that circumstance go out to dinner?
Who's yelling at who?
David Tepper's wife, Nicole Tepper. Yeah, just looking at her, I think she probably has just as much football acumen as David Tepper. So I got no problem in that situation. But yeah, like it can get a little funny on draft night. Anything else going on in camp? We had Kirk Cousins rolling up in Atlanta. Oh, is that Steve Smith? Who is that?
Yeah, Steve Smith, number 8.
Do you think he knew who Steve Smith was before he bought that jersey?
Probably.
He had that outfit laid out, ready to go.
Unlike Max Melton, who bought the John Skelton jersey in the Arizona Cardinals shop, but didn't know who John Skelton was, and then showed up to camp, and everyone was geeking out over John Skelton return.
I thought it was Kevin Cobb.
Kevin Cobb.
They're selling Kevin Cobb jerseys?
Yeah.
Still selling Kevin Cobb jerseys.
We sacked Kevin Cobb 10 times on Thursday night. I've never forgot how the looks on his face when he was getting, like, we almost killed that guy. I think I got a lot of respect for Kevin Cobb. He just kept getting up. But I didn't know they were still selling his jersey down there. That's interesting. What does that speak to? Does that speak to a lack of marketable players on the current roster?
Legends never die, Chris.
Yeah.
Might have just been the most discounted jersey.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins, man. Not going to say I haven't dressed like that before, but not the best look.
Signing down he's a whole new guy, new wardrobe and everything.
Kirk Cousins is like a half step away from being one of these coaches that try to wear a jersey to look cool. You know what I mean? Like, like Sirianni, like when Sirianni wears a jersey, like I actually think he pulls that off better than Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
So,
hey, real quick before we go, what Olympic event are you guys most looking forward to watching? Because they start today.
So rugby sevens has already started. There's going to be 8 of the 12 teams in rugby sevens out by the opening ceremonies.
I'd like to watch rugby sevens. I would like to root. Am I like a bad guy to root for somebody to beat USA basketball? I just think
it'd be fun.
It's funny. Yeah. I think it's funny. I also read an article this morning about like there's some cry or there's an effort to get motor speed. What the fuck? What do you call that? Like cars?
Auto racing.
They want to do auto racing at the Olympics. Okay. Little pushback here. We haven't fully decided if they're athletes yet. Number 2, God rest his soul. But imagine if like Dick Trickle was at the Olympic Village. Like, can you imagine some of these dumpy looking race car drivers they're outside like the Olympic Village and there's these like hot ass track girls and a bunch of people having sex and it's like Sodom and Gomorrah and these guys are like outside ripping heaters and drinking beer outside the Olympic Village because they're 50 and white and unathletic. I mean, how hilarious would it be if they made like the NASCAR guys go to Paris? I think it'd be great, dude. I'm all for it.
We need that. That's a proper representation of American athletes right there. Yeah.
For sure, dude. I'm really excited about breaking.
What's breaking?
No idea.
I always get really into random ones. So like I just looked up the schedule for today. Archery.
Yeah.
That's
nice.
Fucking baller, dude. Imagine and like handball. I don't think I've watched a handball game in my entire life, but that's what the Olympics is about, man. You just
you'd be good at handball. You could play handball on a curb.
Dude, it's just like dodgeball, but with like dodgeball soccer, right?
That's what my dad used to say to short guys when we'd meet him, and he'd mean it as like a compliment, but it'd be like a short guy, and he'd be like, "You play handball on a curb." I'm like, and the guy's like, "Oh, cool. What the fuck does that mean?" How long just called me short? Maybe I don't even know what handball is. I'll tell you another one that I like to keep my eye on is modern pentathlon because it's something that I'm convinced I could do. I really do think I could do the modern pentathlon.
I think you'd be great at rugby sevens. It's like a quicker paced rugby.
Too much running, way too much.
Hella bunch of running. But
can I tell you something, Reed? You're Mr. Runner. I've logged 12 miles this week.
Hey,
With a
good deal. Has
45-pound weight thing. I'm gunning for your resting heart rate, bro.
I was gonna say, has the resting heart rate come down at all? Are we in the 30s yet?
Heart rate's in the 40s for sure. But my blood pressure the other day was 100/65.
Hey, that's great.
Damn.
That's great for our upcoming flu talk event, Chris. I love that. Get that training up, baby. Get some sled pushes in there. Come on now.
Yeah, I'll get some sled pushes in. Okay, so yeah, Olympics. I'll probably watch very little of it, but it's cool to talk about.
I just looked it up. Breaking is Olympic breakdancing.
Oh yeah, I'm all in. I'm all in.
I like the skateboarding too. That's fun to watch.
No, and you know what's cool? In all honesty, like skateboarding and all this stuff, like I was reading about it, Paris has got some really cool backdrops for all this stuff. I think that's what makes the Olympics is like a host city that's got cool, venues, and I'm sure they're like, duh, that's what it's all about.
They have beach volleyball right in front of the Eiffel Tower.
That's crazy. I'm so looking forward to that. So, so looking forward to catching up on the highlights of that.
We do need to give a shout out to Carlos Alcaraz, the tennis star.
Yeah.
Because he's staying in the Olympic Village while Novak Djokovic has decided to stay out of. And he's taken a selfie with probably every female athlete in that Olympic Village. So he's a smart guy.
He's doing it for his Raya.
Oh, yeah, dude. Martin Truex do the same thing. Let him in. Oh, one more thing. We started the show with a Harbaugh soundbite. I want to finish it with a John Gannon quote. Cardinals coach John Gannon and several members of the staff did a deep dive on the concept of momentum, apparently going back to wars in the 1800s. After all that research, does momentum exist? Gannon, perhaps. I have no idea. That is Coach 101. Doing a deep dive on
shots.
something like that. Yeah. And another thing I saw is that the Browns security team does drills tackling fans during training camp, which I think is a great thing because whenever a streaker comes out there, you'd think these security people were drunk or they hadn't repped it. So that's a very good thing. Another thing that came up was Bryce Young going viral for looking like a middle schooler arriving at his first day of school. I was talking to Mina Kimes about this, and she said the funniest thing. She was like, it was really good that he didn't put both hands on his backpack. Because it's so true. We're going to have plenty more training camp news throughout this whole thing. I'm going to be in Montana probably another week and a half. And then I'll be headed back to the East Coast to do our Inside the NFL rehearsal and get back to work. So there'll be plenty of time to brief y'all on the cadence of our shows in the fall. I know that football season is upon us, but stay tuned for all that pertinent information. Beau, thank you for the time, buddy.
Appreciate you, Chris. Love you, brother.
Love you, my Flu Talk teammate.
Hell yeah. We're about to go for the world record.